Call this meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Okay, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda this evening?
There are none.
Okay, number 3, adopt agenda with any addenda. Do I have a motion?
So moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Letter C is district recognition. So number 1 is recognition of district retirees and district staff resigning with 10 or more years of service. And so this evening, we will begin with the transportation department, and they will be honored by Donna Back.
So oftentimes a school bus is referred to as a moving classroom with one adult, the driver, and upwards of 20 to 40 students seated behind the driver. And the most important job a bus driver has is to manage those student behaviors and drive that bus safely from destination to destination. And tonight, I would like to recognize Janet Howard for her 10 years of driving the school bus and her outstanding record of safety. Janet drove a bus for the Southeast School District. Her route consisted about 100 miles a day. And so if you do the math, that's about 92,000 miles for those 10 years. And that's like driving from the West Coast to the East Coast 31 times, or 3.5 times almost around the world. So that's pretty impressive. And she did that successfully with the sun in her eyes. On those days when it was 95 degrees, but inside that bus, it was 110 and no air conditioning. She embraced the Wyoming winds. She kept that bus upright the whole time. She endured 10 Wyoming winters with the bitter cold. Always having that bus warmed up for the students when they were ready to get on board. She endured the ice-packed roads, the snow-covered roads, the drifted roads, and she did that all safely. And I think the rest of the week it's going to be muddy roads. So anyway, not everybody's cut out to be a bus driver. Janet, you were. Thank you. And you did that with skill, with determination and professionalism. And I want to say, job well done. And it's been a privilege working with you, and I wish you the best on your retirement. So, like, reference.
Yes, please. Yep.
Here you go, Janet. You're not good.
Okay, now we'll go to the Office of Special Services and honored by Trina Nickel.
So I could have Mary convert her, I don't know what Randall did. Over there. So I know it's not a competition when we're honoring our retirees, but this is March last year. I thought I'd bring a lot of extra notes, but.
Good idea.
Anyway. So he always outshines all of us and when he honors our retirees. So, that's with a sad heart. that I'm honoring Brenda and Mary. Between the two of them, you are seeing 68 years of experience in education. Mary does 31, 11 here in Goshen County School District. Her role in the district is as a school psychologist. And I think sometimes she's my private counselor as well. As we problem solve. I've appreciated Mary's leadership in the district. She's led some very important initiatives with our special education teachers, our problem solving teams in our buildings. This year she took on, as you all know, we're working on a reading initiative, but she just has this brilliant mind, and she took all those pieces and said, oh, here's how it applies to special education and individual education plans for our students with special needs. So I appreciate that tremendously, and we will miss her. Her plans are to hang out at the dock at Bay. She was singing that for me today, and go watch her grandson play baseball and hang out with grandkids, and we may see her back on some special assignments. So thank you, Mary. So then, Miss Brenda, I have really enjoyed getting to know. She has 37 years in education, 26 here in Goshen County School District. She's led a lot of initiatives as well. She's an occupational therapist, so she helps students always think about handwriting, right? And in fact, we need to come meet with you about that at some point, Mr. Kramer. But she also has a passion for gardening, and she had that. She had built a garden. There's a little house on the football field, and so she brings students there in the summer, and they would start gardening. She does a lot of life skills with students. She's a huge advocate for students. She will speak up when she sees things that might need to look different to improve education for students. And she's very skilled in what she does, and she's very difficult to replace. And she's even already started mentoring. We did find a replacement, but you won't match Brenda. So I just appreciate everything you've done for the district, Brenda, and wish you the best in your retirement.
Okay, next we have district administration honored by Marcy Gates and Ryan Kramer.
Bach, you want to come forward? This is really hard for me. Donna's been with the district for 31 years, all in the transportation department. She is one of those people that has started as a driver and worked her way up. Donna was both a route and activity driver. She moved into the transportation secretary, and in 2010, she became the supervisor. Donna's one that I've got to work with since 2008. And safety is of the utmost importance for Donna. She, I'm sure she's not going to miss those early morning calls and out driving the roads, trying to determine if it makes sense and is doable to have school or not. But one of the things that I really admire and gonna miss is still to this day, there's people that have had Donna drive activities, and they will comment about how Donna was one of the best and safest drivers they had. And when you talk to Donna, she drove all over the state. I think she really enjoyed it, but that kind of molded her into the transportation supervisor she was, and that she really is one of those people that didn't ask drivers to do something that she wouldn't do. Donna was both a trainer, and then she moved into a third-party tester. She tested drivers for other districts, and that's a huge thing that we're really going to miss. So Donna, I wish you well, and we're going to miss you.
This winter, I had a lot of conversations with Donna. And she probably rolled her eyes on the other end of the phone more times than I can imagine, listening to me to try to figure out what we were going to do next. But Marcia said it very well. She is phenomenal to work with and had the kids' safety in mind 100% of the time. There was not one time where we had a discussion where there wasn't specifically something about the road conditions and what she felt she was going to be able to provide all the kids in the community and our county in the same way. So thank you, Donna, for everything you've done for us. Like that, Mr. Epler. Mr. Epler will be retiring after 40 years. This year, I asked him to take on a different role of MTSS coordinator for the district. Prior to that, he was well known for being Southeast principal. And before that, the ag instructor and FFA coach that I still hear some great stories that I am still, one of the best comes from the fluffing the chicken. I believe that fluffing the chicken or I was looking out at FFA student. So yes, there are some really good stories. The word that comes to mind when I think of Randy is respect. Randy, when he walks into a room in this district, he is highly respected. He's highly respected for his insight into helping kids and everything that he's done for so many kids over the years. He has been instrumental and a mentor to me when I came into this district. It was very many times that I call out to Southeast, especially during COVID, and ask Randy, you know, what thoughts he might have. And he would sometimes come to me after admin meetings and apologize. I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said that. And every time I just really appreciated the way he would approach every situation, looking at it from a perspective of what needs our kids desiring at this time and how can we fulfill this. And it has been a pleasure to work with Mr. Epler over the last 4 years. And I know many people in this district can say the same. Randy is going to retire and spend some time with his grandkids and has talked about that significantly. And I'm so happy for him to be able to have that time and the time that we got to have him as one of our great leaders in our district. So thank you, Randy. Because we didn't get it ordered in time, and so I'll get to give it to him a little bit later. If I could have Brian Foster. Brian Foster is technology director for the district. He has been in the district for 38 years. I did not know all the different jobs until we had your retirement gathering the other day and looked at the pictures. And in fact, yes, before the stress that we put him under as tech director, there was hair. There was plenty of and good mustache also. Yes. The things that I think about with Mr. Foster are integrity and just the sheer genuineness. When I first met Ryan, it's been the same from day one. Just a extremely genuine person who cares about kids and cares about his fellow coworkers to a fault. I could call him on a Friday evening at 8 o'clock because I got an email that said something about a student, and Ryan would drop everything immediately, no matter where he was at, give me a call and be there for kids every single time, no questions asked. And that's what Brian is about. Brian's like that in church. Brian is like that in the community. And one of the things when people in the technology department were talking about him when we had his retirement gathering, you could tell how his people he works closely with feel about him and how much they value his love and compassion for them and what he is as a person and just a great guy to work with. And we're going to genuinely miss him. And again, every tech guy that comes in to me And for some reason, I could not get anything to work. They come in, and usually 2 clicks of a key, and he's got my computer working, so I'm gonna miss that. So thank you. Mr. Clark.
I've always been wanting to retire because I could be like an early retiree because of Mr. Heyman, Mr.
Mr. Heyman. So I say this out of great respect for this man standing next to me, but I have given him a hard time before. When I look at his years of service, and I've given him service importance, that he has been in the district longer than I've been alive. It is just an amazing amount of time and energy he has provided to this staff. Working with him, even in year 48, the passion that was still there in year 1 is still there in year 48. And I think something for each of us to try to reach and attain. The stories and the things that he shares have you captivated every time he talks about them. And I still remember a number of the stories of officiating and some of the one-liners, and I will not even try. I was going to try a couple of one-liners that Mr. Heyman has had in admin meetings and such. And if you've known Mr. Heyman, they're plentiful. But there's no magic in them. And in an admin meeting, it is a guarantee that he will always have us in stitches and talking about what things that he's done for kids. The first time I ever met Mr. Heyman outside of an interview was when I took my daughter to tour TMS. And the compassion that he showed to his family really mattered. So I'm gonna try to get through the rest of this without getting jumped up again. So he's meant a lot to my family, and a lot to the family of Goshen County. And I really can't imagine a year where he's not going to be involved. We're going to invite him back a number of times so he can make sure and give us his one-liners in admin. Thank you, Mr. Hank.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to Southeast Schools honored by Ken Williams. You wanna?
Stand in front. Linda loves the limelight, so I'm going to ask her to stand out front. She told me to be extremely quick, and I'll try. So I have the pleasure of honoring 2 people that have been a big part of Southeast Schools for a lot of years. First of all, Belinda Epler, who has been with us for 28 years. She started off in 1995 as a kindergarten teacher. Did that for, and we discussed back and forth how many years today. Shows how good both of our memories are. But in 2004, she moved to 2nd grade and has been there ever since. She has been head teacher. She has been called upon in a lot of situations to come up with things for, first of all, Brian Grassmick, then Randy, then myself. And she always does that. How every year she can come up with the elementary schedule and manage all the, I need this many EAs at this time. And if you've ever been a part of an elementary scheduling meeting where you're divvying up EAs and things like that, it's very interesting, Nick. So people want help. And so she has always managed that with a lot of dignity. She, when she takes her glasses off and sets them on the table, She takes a deep breath, but she always handles it with a lot of grace and humility, and she does a great job. I was gonna figure out some numbers on the number of students that it would have been over 28 years at an average of 16 to 18 kids every year, but she has touched a number of lives, and I think no job better done than maybe even this year. Belinda has had a class that is maybe a little more challenging. And she has done a tremendous, and I mean tremendous job. When you walk in day one and you see what's going on, and you walk in at the end of the year and you see what's going on, and they're sitting there and they're working, and they're able to keep their hands to themselves most of the time. I do have to tell a story on one of her kids. She always has very polite kids. So last week we had basketball camp, and she has taught them so well to be polite that every time one of them received a pass from his teammates, he said, "Thank you." And so it drove the rest of the kids nuts, but he was very polite and said, "Thank you." So Belinda, we do appreciate everything you have done for Southeast schools. You've kept a lot of administrators sane. And you know, I could tell some stories about Randy if we have some time that you're talking about some of those FFA stories, but so thank you. And thank you for everything you've done for us. So.
Randy blesses your cash.
We'll get We'll get it. Our second honoree tonight, Andrea Eisenbarth. She told me today 21, but I see 22 on here. So, okay, all right. Perfect.
I've never, math's not my. You know that.
It's okay. I'm all right with that. So Andrea, no matter how many years that she has been with us, she started off in the district as a split position between Southeast and Lingle Fort Laramie, drove that road back and forth for 10 years, and then was split for 1 year between THS and Southeast before joining the Southeast team full time. She has a very unique way with kids. Well, very honest, very open. The conversations that are had in her classes, the kids enjoy. They always come out of there with the knowledge they need, but with some life skills as well. And so I appreciate that your honesty and tactfulness with your kids and those relationships that you build with them. I've discussed a little bit with Andrea what she plans to do in retirement. One thing that she told me, and which surprises me, is going on a camping trip to Guernsey, just park along the golf course there and camp for a week with Mr. Eisenbarth. Now, I've seen some of the interactions between you two in a 2,000 square foot house. So in a 200 square foot trailer, I'm wondering, can you let me know if you need some help, if you need somebody to come and get you?
There's a river nearby.
That's what I'm saying. I'm a little worried about this interaction. So Andrea has been very willing to do whatever has been asked. Being a social studies teacher and a psychology teacher, and a few years ago took on the role as reading interventionist. And she has taken that and run with it and asked lots of questions and made it her own and done a great job for those kids and stepped up and met a need that was very evident. So we appreciate that. Thank you for both of your willingness to do whatever hat that you had to wear, and we will miss you both greatly.
Okay, Lingle Fort Laramie Schools honored by Corey Jumcher.
My rookie year was with Belinda, so I remember a lot of conversations where it started with me having a lot of enthusiasm for a great idea. And her going, porch. So thanks for the learning experience. You probably saved me a lot of trouble. So. If any of you know Barb Clark, getting her here for this, she's not a limelight kind of gal, so it was an impossibility. But I asked her to give me her kind of history in her bio, and she started out at St. Joe's, went to Montana for a stint and decided it was much too cold up there. I don't know if you realize what happened this winter either here, but She came back and then she's between coaching and teaching, she's been in about every building in the district. Lastly, my building, I found two things very distinctly about Barb. You don't mess with her kids, and it invokes visions of mom and grizzly bears. She is very much their advocate. The second thing is, if you're gonna ask her opinion, you better have your big boy pants on, because you're gonna get it. And we will sorely miss her at LFL and wish her well. She tells me she's doing nothing to retire. So.
Okay, Torrington Middle School honored by Marvin.
So it's my privilege to recognize Robert Block, Rob. I knew about Rob when he was in school in Lingle. He's a Goshen County kid, through and through, was a state champion wrestler, all around athlete. He's a leader at TNS. Currently, he leads our student sport team, does a great job. And the bottom line for Rob, and it sounds corny, but it's always about what's best for that kid. It's not about what's best for the school, what's best for the teachers. It's a heartfelt belief that we need to do something to help this kid. And the needier they are, the more difficult they are, the more challenging they are, the more they struggle with the classroom, the more Rob steps up to help them. Rob's headed to the Black Hills. He's taken a teaching position in Sturgis. He's going to stick with middle school, which tells you where his heart's at. Rob was with us for a number of years, then went to Trail, was a teacher, then dean of students, and came back to Torrington Middle School recently. Rob has coached a lot of sports at Torrington Middle School, particularly track and wrestling, and did so very successfully. We tried to talk to Rob about coaching basketball. The first day in the gym, he sprained his ankle badly, could have needed surgery, so we asked him not to coach basketball. Track and wrestling, and he did that. He and his wife have purchased a home in Spearfish. They did want me to mention to everybody here, it can be rented for $11,312 during the rally. So if anybody's interested, that will pay his taxes. I also know that he's applied for a different job even before he's gone to South Dakota. Rob, you may know this, but one of my favorite bands is Easy Top, and one of the members passed away recently, and Rob has applied to fill in for obvious reasons. Well, we'll be interested to know. Okay. Rob's the guy to step up every day and say, "Can I help you?" I've heard him repeatedly this year say, "I'll stay at 5 o'clock and help you. I'll feed you. I love you. I'll support you." I've seen Rob help kids find clothes. Anything he can do, whether it's during the school day or after or weekends, Rob's willing to do. And at the risk of sounding corny, Rob's one of the people I most admire in my profession. He's just the kind of guy that is all about kids. His son will be running track at South Dakota, Black Hills State University. His daughter's there, so his family will reunite in South Dakota unless a gig with the toppers comes through. Rob and I, for many years, went to 6th grade camp together. We did canoeing. He had all the deep water rescues, and I got everything within 3 feet of shore. And so Rob did that extremely well. Again, all about kids. One of the best people I know, and the best educators I know. So thank you for everything you do. Thank you.
Torrington High School honored by Doyle Meyer.
Thank you, school board, for allowing me to speak on behalf of one of the kindest, most courageous and effective science teachers. And we share a corner at room 201, 203, and 205 for the past 10 years. And we've really gotten to bond together really well. It does kind of help that we both kind of have a passion for the goats that she takes care of. Anyway, you're looking at a 1978 graduate of Torrington High School, and it just kind of came full circle. She went on to Doane College to attend basketball scholarship, track scholarship, and an academic scholarship. However, Mel's been in the profession of teaching students for a very, very long time, almost 41 years of some sort. And I think there's a rumor out there that she is giving swimming lessons to some board members out there, something like that. So that's pretty awesome. She started her formal education of teaching in Weston, Kansas, did that for 3 years, 7 preps, 5 science, 2 PEs. She was a preschool teacher for 12 years at the Christian preschool, First Step Christian preschool. Then she moved on to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, where she taught for 12 years as a geoscience teacher, chemistry teacher, and a physical science teacher. In 2013, we had the honor of having you here at Torrington High School, and it's been awesome. She's had 34 total years of teaching, and she actually has coached basketball and volleyball with Miss Hammersmith and with Marv as an assistant or whatever.
Yeah, a volunteer.
A volunteer position, okay? So, Mel is a champion of the students. She is one that instills expectations, discipline, and grit into the freshmen so that the students, when they come to the biology classes and the chemistry classes and the anatomy physiology classes, they have that understanding of science. They have the expectations of what it needs to be a successful high school science student. They have the discipline to be successful. And I think above all, you showed them how to be gritty and succeed in life. And we can't ask for much more. My friend, Melvers.
Trail Elementary, honored by Tyler Forshinier.
Oh, we're ready.
I have the honor tonight to honor Miss Jill Meinecker for her 30 years of service. I've known Jill for only 9. Jill always has a funny story, great sense of humor. I do know that in my 9 years there, many kids that come back that have graduated are Miss Meinecker's kids. They come back to see Miss Meinecker in the classroom. I know she's going to enjoy more of her farm. I'm gonna miss these stories every day, almost about what's happened at the farm with her cattle there, the irrigation, or hey, where were you this morning? I need help with the irrigation pipe. No one called me. Hey, where were you this morning? I had a bum calf, but I was until 3 o'clock in the morning nursing. Nobody called me, so I'm gonna miss some stories. Jill's been part of the 5th grade team for 20 years in 5th grade, 9 that I know of.
I showed up at Torrington in 2000. I was at LaGrange for 1 year and Southeast between, so I did 5th grade the whole time. I guess there's other grades.
So I do know we're gonna miss Miss Meinecker at Trail Elementary, and I know she's gonna enjoy the farm and.
I just make a comment. Brian and I graduated from PHS in 76. She and I played ball together. Eisenbarth and I raced for the perfect parking spot in town. Pete, I got to teach him a little bit over at Morrill. And our prescriber's out in honor tonight. She is good. I had my Bella Hay and my tractor right in the middle of the road and she got that bus around. She even got around, she didn't roll it or anything.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer.
Okay. Yeah.
The second honoree tonight wasn't able to make it this group tonight. She's been, I believe, with Trail Elementary for 10 years, I know for 9. Wonderful, caring woman, always there for kids, does anything you ask her to do. The kind that she's been terrific.
Okay, number 2 is scholarship presentations by the Board of Trustees to the 2022 student representatives to the board. So it looks like the first one is Cameron Rafferty, if she's here. Okay. Okay, we'll make sure that Cameron gets her stuff. So the next one is Clacy Groney.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Clacy, the time that she put in. I don't, what are your plans?
I'm going to attend Catholic College and double major in animal science and agriculture.
She is an extremely good student. They, all three, during this group, spoke so eloquently and did a great job. I appreciate Clacy. And some of the things that she brought so much fire to it. It was very evident throughout that she is a passionate student rep and is going to do some great things. So, thank you for being on board.
Okay, and the final one is Alex McIntyre.
Well, Alex and I had a Rapid City bond. We talked Rapid City every once in a while and had some commonalities there. Alex always, every time we go out to Southeast, it is without fail that he will come up to me and just generally ask, "How you doing, Mr. Kramer?" And Alex was a great student to work with, and he had some things and ideas in a different perspective that allowed us to kind of explore some things from the student side of it that I really appreciated. I know, Alex, what is your plans? What are your plans for next year? You can share with everybody.
So my plans are to attend EWC for at least 2 years and then transfer into to finish up and get a bachelor's in secondary social studies education.
There are some potential openings, you know. So let's start recruiting you now. Alex, thank you for being a student rep.
I just want to say thank you to all three. All three of you did an excellent job. Didn't matter what the topic was, you guys covered it and did a great job for the board. So thank you very much. We will now move on to D, information and proposals. So we did not have a report from the student representatives for this evening. They are very busy this time of year. So number 2 is a school presentation by Trail Elementary. This has been rescheduled from April.
Okay, you can hear me again. Usually when I do a board presentation, I present something around math or reading, something like that. Well, what what I've realized for this board presentation is there are things in our school districts that keep kids hooked in our education system. I mean, yes, it is reading, it is math, but there's a lot of things that keep our kids really hooked. Focus on their academics, and that's our electives, that's our special in our level. Our library, our art, our PE, and our music. So for today, Mrs. Umberzat is going to visit with you a little bit, highlight some of our specials.
All right, as Mr. Fleishner said, my name is Hillary Umbersat and I'm a music teacher at Trail. Unfortunately, my colleagues could not make it tonight. They had prior obligations, but they prepared a few things to say about their subject areas. First off, we have a new art teacher next year. Her name is Mrs. Jill Telford, and we are very excited to welcome her to the Trail and Lincoln Elementary teams. In the meantime, Mr. Ryan Boshi, our current art teacher, he presented Trail Elementary's art exhibits at the April board meeting, so hopefully you saw them there. Within these exhibits, students demonstrated their use of primary and secondary colors and patterns with positive and negative designs. Various artwork also had optical illusions and pictures drawn from observation. Mr. Lance Petch is our PE teacher and has continued to build our program. Within the building, our team understands the importance of PE, where the kids burn energy in a structured setting outside of recess. Most of what students do in PE is work on hand-eye coordination and foot-eye coordination and learn how to move through space safely. In PE, the kids previously learned about basketball and basketball skills to coincide with March Madness, which gave the activity more relevance to daily life. Currently, the students are working on completing their fitness test, which works on their strength, agility, and endurance. PE is a lifelong endeavor and will give our students the tools to be healthy as they mature. As I previously stated, I'm the music teacher at Trail Elementary. Music is also a lifelong endeavor that supports the literacy goals of our school, including reading fluency and syllable division. In music, all students perform one musical a year. Our students work very hard to learn our musical, while students go above and beyond by taking on leadership roles that benefit our musical and help hone their social, leadership, and artistic skills. Outside of musicals, our students learn about music history, singing, reading music, dance, and playing instruments. One of the instruments we learn is recorder. I have a few musicians who they are prepared to play their recorders for you tonight. As they play, you'll notice that they have yarn and beads tied to the bottom of their recorders. Each represents a song they have learned, practiced, and performed proficiently. So if my recorder players could please come forward, all four of you, come on down. All right, our first kid, here, I'll have you guys stand over here. Okay, our first child is Paisley Martin, and she is a fourth grader. She will be playing When the Saints Go Marching In. Okay, our next student is Andrew Blumker. He is a fourth grader and he'll be playing Amazing Grace for you tonight. And if you notice, Andrew had memorized it. He did not have music in front of him. Our next student is Alex Cholsky. He is a fifth grader and he'll be playing Lightly Row for you tonight. And our last recorder player for you tonight is Brea Derby. She is a 5th grader and will be playing On Top of Old Smoky. All of the special subjects at Trail Elementary are essential and beloved by our students. For some students, art, music, and PE are the reason they come to school in the morning. I could stand here and tell all of you about the research supporting art, music, and PE in schools, but I decided it would be more powerful if you heard from our students why specials are so important to them. Art. I like art because you can be creative. 3rd grade boy. I love art because ever since I was 4, I shared my creations in art with my family. Ever since then, I have always wanted to be a professional artist. I think art is why you have hands. 5th grade girl. Music. Music is my favorite special because I like playing fun music games and singing, and I like playing instruments. 3rd grade girl. I like all of my specials, but my favorite is music. I like music because Mrs. Umberzat is the only specials teacher that hasn't changed from 3rd grade. Music is a fun place to learn, and singing can be fun. 5th grade girl. My favorite special is music because it calms me down. 5th grade boy. PE. My favorite special is PE because I like sports, and PE helps with physical stuff. 4th grade boy. My favorite special is PE because I get to see Mr. Petch. 3rd grade girl. I love running, sports, tag, and fun and elusive games. It's also a time where I can get my energy out. 5th grade boy. Thank you so much for your time and allowing me to give you a snapshot into the specials team at Trail Elementary.
Okay, with that, we will move down to letter E, our public forum. Oh, okay. I apologize. So never mind, we will go to a school presentation in the boardroom by Torrington Middle School. I apologize.
That last presentation was awesome. This evening, I want to share some information. I remember being a kid and hearing that my generation wasn't going to match up to my father's generation. And I won't say we did, but we tried. Okay. My children's generation has done extremely well. And I can assure you that the generation that's in school now is comprised of great people that will do wonderful things in the future. So one of the greatest joys in working in education is the opportunity to know and to educate and to support all students as unique and valued individuals. And if you want to meet unique and valued individuals, just stop by a middle school, okay? Because that's when kids are exploring who they are, what they want to be, and what they want to do when they grow up. This evening, I'd like to introduce you to 12 great representatives of Torrington Middle School's student body. They were selected as the first semester students of the semester at TMS. They were chosen for exemplifying the 2 pillars that we talk about with our students: respect and responsibility. Blazers of the semester exemplify positive leadership, dedication to their learning, supporting and encouraging other students, for modeling respect and responsibility, and demonstrating respectful interactions with their peers and adults. They're not picked because they have the highest grades, they're the best athletes, that sort of thing. They're just good kids, good role models, and students we want to honor. I had the privilege of calling some parents today who will be selected as students of the 2nd semester. And man, that's a fun call to make. To talk to parents about what great kids we have at Torrington Middle School and in Goshen County in general. So I'd like to introduce those students at this time. They were a little nervous about coming here tonight, so.
Hello, I'm Isaiah LeBrake from Torrington Middle School, and I like pop. I don't have a specific favorite song. My name is Claire Blumker, and I am a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School. My favorite song is Old Town Road. Hi, I'm Sophie. Is Run. Hello, I'm Isaiah LeBrake from
What happened with the tech director on the slide?
Hello, I'm Isaiah LeBrake from Torrington Middle School, and I like pop. I don't have a specific favorite song. My name is Claire Blumker, and I am a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School. My favorite song. I am a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School. My favorite song is Old Town Road.
Yeah. Because mine are.
This is why they had me retired this year.
I get off that easy.
Hello, I'm Isaiah Ray from Torrington Middle School and I like pop. I don't have a specific favorite song. My name is Claire Barker and I am a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School. My favorite song is Old Time. Hi, I'm Sophia Joe and I'm a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School and I like Tom Wilson. Hi, my name is Steve Ryder, and I'm a sixth grader at Torrington Middle School. Hello, I'm Carol Harrison, and I am a member of Torrington Middle School. I am a seventh grader. The music I like to listen to, I don't really have a favorite song, but I like to sing like country and songs. I'm Adriana Briggs, and my favorite song is Never Been Together by Sam. I don't know, it's so great. Favorite songs, yeah. I'm Millie Chavez and I'm a seventh grader in Torrington Middle School and I like to listen to natural music. Hi, I'm Hayden Flora and I'm beautiful. So I like to I'm Serenity Ventura, I'm a eighth grader at school and my favorite song is From Now On. My name is Brody Muriels and I really like rock music.
My name is Julian Stromsky. My favorite song is Broadway Poison.
Favorite class is math. My favorite class is science because the teacher's really nice and I learn the best.
My favorite classes are science and art.
My favorite class is Mr. John. He does really cool things and like he does a lot of fun things and makes everything. My favorite classes are art, fire, and science because I get to be very interactive with things and I understand. I think my chemistry are great teachers. They're not like too nice and like but they can make the little students, but like not super students. I think
I think the characteristics of a great teacher would be that they make super effort because they push people to do the right thing.
a great characteristic for a teacher would be friendly, caring, and respectful. Characteristics of a good teacher, I think, kind and thoughtful.
My favorite teacher ever is Mr. Jackson because his class was really fun and we got to know a lot of stuff. My favorite teacher right now would be my mother because it was homeschooling with her for like everything.
My favorite teacher ever was when I was in fourth grade. My teacher was Mrs. Orr. She was very good at connecting with students in like very different ways. And
I think my favorite teacher ever would be Mr. Mack, who was my second grade teacher. And he always made us laugh, so we never were like in that dull moment. My favorite teacher is Mrs. Katie in second grade. She used to help us with any questions we had on any new subjects.
my favorite teacher ever is going to be Mrs. Kitty from second grade because she made me feel really good about myself and want to go to school every day, and it was just fun.
I think the class I remember most standing is math, because when I was doing my common assessment, my teacher just explained a couple things and I just got it right away.
So classes I'm learning most of my belief is like thinking science and present there is a variety of things that we do, like some science experiments, we have some individual work, we have work that she teaches us. Class that I understand and learn the most is math, because I understand things that I did not used to understand before. The class that I've been learning the most in is math, because she can do a lot, and she always do the work really well. And that's just the most important. The classes that I learned the most is science, because we got to learn about how math works, and we had in years, because that's all relevant today. So it's also for common assessment. Sometimes we want to do like a lab and just
I can't really remember things, so. Let's be honest with you. Learn stuff is probably this, I step down on it. When I get to my house, this stuff, maybe.
I learned best auditory because I register things in my mind right here.
I think the easiest way I learn is by doing experiments. I learned the best when teachers let us work with partners, or the people that you understand. Yes.
The educators would probably be like more hands-on with the work.
I do not think that there are any things that could improve the education here, because the teachers are very good at their teaching job, and everything is very just nice to learn. I don't feel like there's anything that needs to be, because we already have like things we can go to, like after school. I think the things after school help us.
I would say just, you can go more into detail, like how, like what to do.
I feel like there's nothing that needs to be improved, because everybody pushes us to the maximum that we can learn, and overall it's a great thing. People are great. I didn't know. I also have a concert and choir, and the eighth grade and some for eighth grade choir. Some school activities and positions of the comes from the instructional. This year, I'm going to be doing sports like wrestling and track. Also, I did band and choir. My band instrument was a saxophone. Hopefully in seventh grade, I get to play football and basketball versus tracks. So the school activities I've participated in this year is a lot. I've done cross country, I've done basketball, the musical. I'm in track, out of school, softball. The activities I participated in this year were band and choir concerts. I played blues, and I really fun. Express my student. I have participated in cross country, band and choir, musicals, and track.
My educational plans are going to college in Michigan, because I really want to make it to the NBA.
after I graduate high school, I would prefer to go to college to get a master's degree to participate in therapeutic work. My educational plan beyond high school is I'm given the event.
I would like to go to med school after high school to be able to become an anesthesiologist or a pediatric surgeon.
After high school, I'm gonna be school with this baby, and I'm not sure what college I want to go to, but just something good.
Components, but not beyond high school. We just to get a career. My grandparents were chefs, my dad were chefs. I just know that. We belong to the tradition of the chef.
Is to study. My plans beyond high school are either house design or doing like makeup in movies or shows. Or that I've been practicing on myself and psychic with other people. And I want to become a teacher, an elementary teacher. For high school, but of course, I'm going to college first. So, I'm going to second grade because I like kids. And I think they're really good. And I also want to become a music teacher. Because I love music. I like being a part of music. If you all go to college, you really like math or be a waiter. After high school, I want to do football for Clemson, Florida, make it football. I want to become a Olympic. When I graduate high school, I'm going to go to the army, and after that, I don't know what to do in Monday.
Okay, now we will move to letter E, public forum. Please remember there's a 5-minute time limit. And it looks like Rebecca Cohorn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. You know, it's nearing the end of the school year and kids are getting their report cards, and I thought perhaps it would be a good idea to give you all a report card. It's helpful to know how you're doing and in areas that you need to improve. But you know, some other things have come to light, and I'm gonna tell you, my neck is just really bothering me tonight because I seem to have whiplash. Because you say you're conservative, you say we're being very careful, but that's not what you're doing. And frankly, switching back and forth is just really bothering my neck. For instance, we say we don't want any of that gender transition stuff like that, but that's not what you hired. In fact, the Cowboy State Daily, May 8th, 2023 edition says Rock Spring School allegedly hiding gender transition from parents has Wyoming lawmakers regrouping. Who was the principal over there, the superintendent? Oh yeah, she's hired, she's working for us. In
Ms.
Torrington.
Cohorn,
I did not name any names.
but we can identify exactly who you're talking about.
I did not name any names. For instance, I could also say that
I'll go a different direction. We all know that I have an individual, my daughter's on an IEP, and I have, along with the superintendent, attended a meeting in Casper this past 2 weeks ago. And one of the presenters there was the education boss, special education boss out of Texas. She's a delightful woman. And she has brought to light a number of, shall we say, irregularities and things that need to be improved in the special education department. And I know there's at least one other person in this room that really needs to take stock and inventory and pay really close attention to special ed. I have been told that according to agenda item under new business, C, that we wish to hire as Chelsea Jackson, a special education teacher at Lingle Fort Laramie Middle and High School. I don't know who this woman is, so I started asking people, who is this? Who is this?
Cohorn,
It's on your paper.
understand.
It is your paper.
If we need to go to executive session to talk about it, we can.
No, we're not. I didn't know who she was, and I wanted to know who she was because at some point in time, it is very possible that my child would encounter her as a teacher. I have been told some very interesting things. For instance, she's not certified. How does a person get a job when they're not qualified? Other things that have been mentioned by community members is that she has some very unflattering
We're gonna take a recess.
personal characteristic. I'm not. Including the fact that she is mean and destructive. wrong. I will own that I am wrong, and I will apologize for being wrong. The second agenda item I would like to address is under J, new business J. It is consider approval of a contract extension with PEBC for leadership coaching. I have been doing just a tiny bit of research into PEBC. For those that don't know, PEBC stands for Public Education and Business Coalition. And when you look up their website, it says directly under it, now and then battling over critical race theory facts. Also, Brookings Institute, why are states banning critical race theory? Also, Education Week, what is critical race theory and why is it under attack? And further down the page, they have sources, reading, writing, racism, disrupting whiteness in teacher education in the classroom. Now, for any of those that don't know, Ibram Kendi wrote the book on critical race theory. He's such an intelligent man. His definition of racism is, and I quote, a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas. Well, thanks. I know exactly what racism is now. Now, I don't care. I'm under the impression that PEBC is for leadership, coaching, and teaching teachers or other staff. Well, with a website page that starts out like that, I really don't care if this company is teaching teachers how to teach my child to wipe their nose. I don't think I want to have any business to do with this company. And I am very distressed to think that this board would approve such a thing, especially when they say that they are conservative and that we don't want this sort of thing. And also when it says about that disrupting whiteness, I don't know if we've all looked around lately, but it's really bright in this room. And I don't want my whiteness disrupted. I don't want my child to have to apologize for being white. Neither would I want any child to have to apologize for being their particular race. And it is my hope that this board does not rubber stamp approve this contract extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move down to letter F. Under recommended action is the consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda that any member wishes to pull? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda passes. We will now move down to number 2, new business, letter A, which is consider approval of the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget as presented. Recommendation is to approve the 2024 preliminary budget as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter B, consider approval of superintendent salary for the 23-24 school year. The recommendation is to approve as presented. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion that we approve the salary of $150,000 plus a 7% increase with no change in the benefits package. for the school year of 2023-2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I make an amendment to that motion, the change to the benefit package would include the 2%. Correct, the 2% pay into the retirement.
Mr. Chair, may I also ask another question?
Absolutely.
I have the 115,000 and then the 7% being 10,500. So is our intent for the new salary to be 160,500 less the benefits that other employees are responsible for as well, including retirement and the insurance contribution? Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the superintendent's salary for the 23-24 school year as presented this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter C, consider approval of offering teaching contracts for the 23-24 school year. The recommendation is to approve offering a teaching contract to Jason Diaz as a math teacher at Torrington High School for the 23-24 school year, pending Wyoming certification, and to Chelsea Jackson as a special education teacher at Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School and High School for the 23-24 school year, pending Wyoming certification. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of offering teaching contracts to Jason Diaz as a math teacher at Torrington High School for the 23-24 school year, and Chelsea Jackson, special education teacher at Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School and High School for the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Item carries. Letter D is consider acceptance of certified staff resignations. The recommendation is to accept the resignation submitted by District MPSS Coordinator Randy Epler, Southeast Elementary Teacher Belinda Epler, and TMS Social Worker Jessica Martin, effective at the end of the 22-23 school year. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the resignation submitted by District MPSS Coordinator Randy Epler, Southeast Elementary Teacher Belinda Epler, and TMS Social Worker Jessica Martin, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter E, consider approval of appointing district representative to the school risk retention program. The recommendation is to approve appointing business manager Marcy Cates as the Goshen County School District representative to the school risk retention program for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Are you okay with that?
Okay, all those in favor of appointing district representative Marcy Cates as the Goshen County School District representative to the school risk retention program for a 3-year term through June 30th, 26, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter F, consider approval of contract renewal with Frontline Education for absence and time solution system for the 2022 or 2023-2024 school year. The recommendation is to approve the contract renewal with Frontline Education for absence and time solution program from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, in the total amount of $22,684.45. Is funded through the general fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of contract renewal with Frontline Education for absence and total and time solution program from July 1st, 23 to June 30th, 24, in the total amount of $22,684.45, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter G, consider approval of contracting with professional software for nurses for student health information system. The recommendation is to approve contracting with PSNI for Snap Health Center Student Health Information Software Subscription, cloud hosting, initial setup, and training in the total amount of $9,375 from July 1st, 23 through August 31st, 24. This is funded through the general fund. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
is it my understanding this is necessary to comply with a certain Wyoming Department of Education new format they have?
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving contracting with professional software for nurses for student health information system in the amount of $9,375 from July 1st, 23 through August 31st, 24, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter H, consider approval of contracting with Great Minds for staff professional development services. Recommendation is to approve contracting with Great Minds for 4 days of Eureka 2 math professional development for Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School staff in the amount of $18,000 for the 23-24 school year. And this is funded through 1003 school improvement funds. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of contracting with Great Minds for staff professional development services for Eureka 2 math at Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School staff in the total amount of $18,000 for the 23-24 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter I, consider approval of contracting with the NWEA for student testing services. Recommendation is to approve contracting with NWEA for measures of academic progress testing at Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School during the 23-24 school year in the amount of $9,060. This is also funded by 1003A school improvement funds. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of contracting with NWEA for measures of academic progress testing at Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School for the 23-24 school year in the amount of $9,060, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter J, consider approval of contract extension with PEBC for leadership coaching. Recommendation is to approve the contract extension with PEBC for an additional 1.5 days of virtual coaching for the leadership and literacy team prior to June 30th, 2023, in the total amount of $4,650 for a revised total amount of $54,250. This is funded through the Gear 2 funds. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
PEBC, we've worked with since 2004. We had large contracts throughout that time. If you're familiar with the name Scott Murphy, who has worked with the district, I believe, for over 10 years, I believe. That's the contract for Scott Murphy and his involvement with our district, who's been very instrumental in our work on our collegial leaders. And this is governor COVID funding. So Gear 2 is actually funded directly from the state of Wyoming and actually has been approved for this. And so the elaboration of where this money would be spent and for what purpose and for which company has been viewed by the state of Wyoming and approved. There are, as I do go to their website, there is a statement that says our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion is stated on their website. I strongly, as a parent of a special needs child, absolutely support those words. Because without those words, my child is not attending a regular classroom, is not getting to go to a public school. That equity is even needed to be worked on even more for my child as a special needs child, so they are identified as a person and not just a student who is different than anybody else. And inclusion is absolutely 100% necessary in our society to have those kids involved with everyone else. And so I truly believe in those words that PEBC states on their website for my kid and what it does for my kid to be included for every activity, not just the ones that I choose to maybe differentiate, but I feel that that has a lot of value. And I feel that our work with PEBC and Scott Murphy has been very instrumental in this district for what we want to accomplish as a district and a community.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I have a couple questions about it, because I did look it up as well. And I believe that there are some good things of it, but there's other things that are concerning. Especially about disrupting white supremacy cultural norms. They continuously brag about teaching critical race theory. This kind of training in there and the process of incorporating diverse ideas, identities, and perspectives. I think there's some concerns about things that are happening in other schools that would be brought into our school as well with this company, because they do brag about it. They also talk about using stuff from the National Equity Project, which backs Black Lives Matter and other projects like that too. So I think there's some other concerns with that, and I think with this company, we maybe should look at something a little different.
To that, Mr. Chair, you know, the term that was used is brag. I would actually offer transparency. I think the company being very transparent in the services that they offer. And I'm not necessarily saying that bragging is what they're doing.
They do state that is what they are out for, is to get these certain beliefs installed into the schools, and they even show their percentage of what they're accomplishing. I mean, they're out of Colorado, and
I believe that people want transparency.
I believe so too. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Okay, we're gonna put their website up.
Trustee Anderson, if you could point me to where those pieces are within there.
Go to about.
And I can zoom if you need me to. It's okay. Or I could run my computer over if that's easier.
You say about? The about tab?
The about, okay.
Probably diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I would be.
That's
on probably. Is there definitions? Yeah, I'm talking about.
right here. Trustee, you should be in.
Click here to read the full definitions.
Right here.
Don't talk about disrupting white supremacy cultural forms.
I think that's listed. I think it specifically states, yeah, disrupt white supremacy cultural norms. Yeah, I think it specifically talks about disrupting white supremacy.
I don't know, they got so many pages.
We've been contracting with them for 10 years, is that what you said? 20 years, 20 years,
2000. So
Okay.
we're just under.
okay. Is there any other discussion?
What exactly do they do? I mean, who's the virtual coaching for?
So Scott Murphy actually has worked with our administrative team for. I'm gonna look to help from the administrators. Has it been the last 10 years that he's directly worked with the administrative team? So Scott Murphy, who is the representative, has come up and worked individually with teams to help talking to us about leadership strategies. Within the last 2 years, he's worked directly with our collegial leaders and talking about how to functionalize meetings, how to expand the processes of running a high quality meeting, along with what needs are we missing in relation to how that teacher perspective comes into light from taking that teacher as a classroom leader and helping them in their groups become leaders in those collegial fashions. This one is actually going to focus on 2 of our specific teams for literacy. So we have a leadership team, obviously, and then we have our literacy team. And he'd be doing those same activities, developing leadership skills, because a lot of times when we're in the teaching environment, and even as an administrator, when we have somebody to provide us some insights on expanding our knowledge of leadership and how to be better leaders for other people, it helps us to get that next step and be self-reflective on what we're doing within those meetings, to be more efficient, to be more timely, and to really listen to what our teachers need. I have not met a teacher in the 4 years that I've been here that hasn't just spoke the praises of Scott Murphy. He is a phenomenal person and an individual that works really hard for Goshen County, and he's worked here for almost a decade in working with our staff. He is a phenomenal person and has done a lot. There will become a time, just as there will, that we won't be having Scott work with us, but we have not worked with anyone else, I believe. I've met a couple of other people from PEBC, but I'm trying to look to my administrators, if anybody other than Scott Murphy has actually come to the district representing PEBC. So really for me, Scott Murphy is the face that I'm in. I don't know anybody else from PEBC, but I'm working with Scott. I know Scott, I believe Scott has done some tremendous things that have been great for Goshen County, and that's why I was excited that Kevin Derby was able to access funds from there to work with Scott some more on some teams that really need some assistance in getting started and working with those teachers.
So I'm gonna ask our administrators a question. If you've all been a part of this training before, has there been good value from it?
I would say, in the 10 years I've worked with Scott Murphy, it's been the most beneficial training I've had in the district. I've been all over the nation. The work with Scott Murphy is that valuable, and the work he's doing with our collegial leaders is invaluable. So it would be a detriment to this district if we did not bring him in.
I would agree with what exactly what Corey said. Scott Murphy said, I need to be a later principal and leader than I ever thought I could be. So his work is phenomenal.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I don't know if this is time for it, but I do. I agree with Trustee Anderson. There probably is in almost every organization. If you were to dig down and dig the dirt, almost on anybody you can find dirt. For me personally, until if Scott Murphy came into the district and we started raising big red flags about it, then I think that would be a red flag. But until it actually we have proof that some of that stuff is coming in, then
think we should try to do anything about it.
Any other discussion?
By trustees, you are welcome at any point in time. Any of our trainers, Scott Murphy or any other trainers are here to come in and observe, ask questions at any time. Feel free. We are wide open in that respect, that we encourage you to see the work that we're doing and meet some of these great people that we're having the opportunity to work with.
Okay. All those in favor of contract extension with BEBC for leadership coaching for an additional 1.5 days of virtual coaching prior to June 30, 2023, in the total amount of $4,650 for a revised total amount of $54,250, please signify by saying aye.
I,
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter K, consider approval of stair tread replacement at Torrington High School. The recommendation is to approve contracting with Anderson Carpet for the replacement of stair treads at Torrington High School in the total amount of $18,606.77. This is funded through major maintenance. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of contracting with Anderson Carpet for the replacement of stair treads at Torrington High School in the total amount of $18,606.77, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter L, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of cleaning and disinfecting supplies and paper products for district buildings. The recommendation is to approve the purchase of cleaning and disinfecting supplies and paper products for Lingo Fort Laramie schools in the amount of $1,472.62. Torrington High School in the amount of $7,919.03. Transportation in the amount of $174.73. And Lincoln Elementary in the amount of $2,507.27, and the total amount of $12,073.65 from Bluff Facility Solutions. This is funded through general fund custodial. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of purchasing cleaning and disinfecting supplies from Bluffs Facility Solutions in the total amount of $12,073.65, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. That brings us to letter M. Consider approval of proposed editorial revisions to the following district policies. District Policy 4122, part-time and substitute certified employment. Admin Reg 2, District Policy 4122, part-time and certified and substitute certified employment. Admin Reg 3, District Policy 4210.1, pre-employment physical assessment testing. And District Policy 6111, school year, school calendar, admin reg. The recommendation is to approve the editorial revisions as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Any discussion?
I just have a point of clarification. So for an editorial revision, we don't have to have more than one reading?
That's correct. And then also we can forego a second reading on any board approved agenda or policy revision that you would like to. It has been common practice to have two readings, but there is not a statutory requirement on such.
And is that based on how much of that policy is changed?
Yes, generally.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have a question. On page 100 on the school year, school calendar. It says, as required by state statutes, which school shall be in operation for at least. We had 182 days or we had 185 days and took 3 out. And then the classes shall be conducted with a majority of teachers and pupils, which is like 51%. in attendance, and it was 175 days, and it would drop to 153, which is 22 days. Specific reason for that? Huge drop.
That's that 4-day school week. So we cannot count the Fridays. So we can't count the 21 Fridays that students will also be inclusive of that program.
But it only changes 3 days as far as in operation.
So that is actually the contracted days for teachers. So the teachers are also working on those Fridays, and then they also have their professional development days ahead. So that's why there's that change.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Kramer, is that? Do we have to have that approved by the state to?
So that application was completely separate, and that had been submitted after we approved that 4-day alternative calendar.
So it has been approved by the state.
We have not gotten word back as to whether they start that review process at the beginning of May. I expect that to be any day where we hear that response, or unless you have more specific information related to that.
They take it through a 2 meeting process also, so they'll take it to their first meeting in May at WD and then go to the final resolution.
Can we pass it then before they approve it?
So this would be policy related to that, and you approved also the alternative calendar already for that application process. So if for some reason it would not be approved, we can go back into policy and restate that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed editorial revisions to District Policy 4122, Admin Reg 2, District Policy 4122, Admin Reg 3, District Policy 4210.1, and District Policy 6111, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter N. Consider approval of proposed revisions to District Policy 4330, Medical Leave Bank as presented on introduction and first reading. The recommendation is to approve the proposed revisions to District Policy 4330, Medical Leave Bank as presented on first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed revisions to District Policy 4330, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter O is consider approval of proposed revision to District Policy 5127, graduation requirements as presented on introduction and first reading. The recommendation is to approve the proposed addition of a 20-year or 20 credit diploma plan for Goshen County School District students as an addition to District Policy 5127, graduation requirements as presented on first reading. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Kramer. On its face in reviewing this policy, it seems as though we're, for lack of a better way of putting it, lowering the bar. Can you address that and kind of the reasoning behind wanting to ask for less credits for the kids to obtain their diplomas, and kind of the basis for that and the reasoning for that? And then also I would have questions about what does this do with kids wanting to take less electives, I guess, and the staff that are teaching those electives.
Great questions. So that lowering the bar piece, if you looked at just that number, 28 compared to 20, that's what it looks like. As you go down and then make that comparison between that chart, and I'm looking on page 106, I'm going to pull it up here also so everybody can see, because I know not everybody has that. So if you look up here on 4 English, 3 math, 3 science, 3 social studies, we typically refer to that as our core. That is what we really have said, this is the priority. This is what we're going to outline. We've even gone as far in this top one to state exactly what courses those are in. Now, one thing that has been a misnomer was the understanding was that these are the only courses that can be. If you look up here, though, there is alternative courses which meet the same standards and have been approved by the board may be substituted. That's nothing that is in policy right now. Unfortunately, there have been a number of situations where we've been just pointing to that as those have to be the courses. We do have other courses that fit into there. But what I'm talking about now is actually those first four. You'll notice on the 20 credit diploma option, 4, 3, 3, 3. What we call the core, what we've set that bar at for the core is the exact same in a 28 or a 20 credit option. We're saying that is the priority. A majority of our students, when they fail a course, they're not failing unspecified electives. They're having trouble in what we call the core, because that's what we're emphasizing. We're emphasizing English, math, science, social studies. That has been one of the groundworkings. Electives are very important, but this is also something we've designed a system where we've just had requirements for hoops to jump through. We haven't done to an individualization of education to where kids have options to choose how they want to actually get into something that meets their needs, not specifically what we've tried here. You may ask, well, there has to be some research on 28. We had to have come to that number because there's research behind that means kids are going to be more successful. No, there's none. There is no research. We pulled that number out and said 28 sounds like a great number because we take potentially 32. We have no data to support why it's set at 28. What this 20 credit diploma allows is for a student to look at other options or emphasize what we call the core. The other piece there that is really important is students are still expected to enroll in a full-time 4-year course of study in order to prepare students for college and career. Goshen County School District #1 graduation requirements are minimum requirements. Many colleges, university, career have more stringent admission requirements. Students will enroll in 8 classes per semester. That doesn't mean that I can only enroll in part-time my freshman year, part-time in sophomore year, because we have these concerns you may hear, oh, we're going to lose ADM or our funding for students. That is not the case, because that line right there, we will not lose ADM because students have to have a plan with their counselor to have 8 classes. And if they are enrolled in classes, we have that full ADM. Another thing that Mr. Gilchrist shared with me a couple of weeks ago, we currently have a work study program that requires 89 hours. Mr. Gilchrist, is that correct? 89 hours. 89 hours for a student to receive credit for their work study. If I was to take that work study period, and I was not to take that period outside of school, if I wasn't to attend that work outside of school, I would fail that course. Because I can't reach, if I only take it once in my class during that semester, there's not 89 hours that I would be on the job. So we're having kids already go above and beyond outside of school hours, which is great, because that's something that interests them. We should encourage that. We should actually block off more periods to where they can take work study. And that's exactly what it's designed to do, is to be able to have multiple classes back to back to teach or be in a work study. It also allows our students, we have a great course that's going to be offered at Southeast this next year. It is geometry and construction, what's the name of it? It's so much better than geometry and construction. What is it? Construction and geometry. See, told you so much better. This time would allow us to open up for classes for kids to actually go take that in person out Southeast, because they wouldn't be necessarily stuck that I have to make sure at 28. Also, for kids who really want to focus on that core, and we know we have some students that struggle. Some of our core classes are hard. They are difficult. And kids need extra time for support. Right now, we are requiring them to take 7 classes every year, and you get 1 study hall. And for a large percentage of our students, that's enough. We do an all right job of helping kids graduate. We don't do a great job. If we did a great job, our numbers would be significantly higher than 80% graduation rate. Now, is the graduation rate the end all be all? No, because I want kids prepared and I want them to be there to go to school and not have to jump through arbitrary hoops that we created with a 28 credit. Now, will most kids far exceed 20 credits? Absolutely. They will far exceed 20 credits to graduate in Goshen County. But this allows for more ability for them to choose what path they want to go on. If I want to focus on internship hours as a priority for me, I have that freedom to do that. I still have to have 2 credits in an approved pathway right here. I still have to have computer applications because that's statutorily required. Personal finance also the same way, and physical education. Many of the same things. You'll notice what's the major difference is the electives. And how does this necessarily affect our electives? One of the biggest pieces that I found in elective courses is the ones that are really hard to get into are the ones that are the greatest programs in our district. It doesn't have to do with my kid signing up for an elective because they had to. They're not signing up for the electives that they have to. They are signing up for the ones that they want to. This doesn't take any of that opportunity away. There still is going to be that. And if you talk to most of the elective teachers, they'll tell you that they're always working on recruiting for their course. That's what makes a great course and a great teacher. They're recruiting kids into that course. This doesn't prevent that. This doesn't automatically put kids on a fast track. Our board chair decided his pathway was he wanted to be done after his junior year. I think I can say, and I'm not trying to be nice, he's a pretty successful guy with however many credits that required in 3 years of high school education. It didn't take 4 years to have him required. Is there a great opportunity to stay 4 years? Absolutely. There's a great opportunity for kids to have more college courses their 4th year, to have those open electives, but it allows us more freedom for kids to investigate what they want to do rather than we putting up barriers to where we want them to be. That's not my job as a superintendent to tell a student what and how they should do. I can't even do that as a parent. My child is graduating in 1 year with what he wants to do in college. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great opportunity that we provided that opportunity. The one thing that I will go back in his sophomore year that he was required to take, he took sports history because he had to have an elective. I'm sure it was a fantastic class. And I know that he enjoyed it, but would his time have been better spent in an internship on one of our farms we had out in this area or ranches to learn more about his craft to get him prepared for what he wanted to do outside of high school rather than a sports history class. Because we designed that. We said, no, we need this, we have to have this elective because we have 11 electives kids have to take. We're presenting an opportunity for kids to look at school in a different way. And in order to integrate kids, we have to start looking at education in a unique way. Now, if we had research that pointed to this number of credits is what leads to a successful student, then I would give a lot of credence to that data, but we don't. All we have is a number that we chose that is much different than other districts around us because it runs the gamut in our state from 28, 26, 24. You'll find all of it everywhere. It allows us to do some different things for our kids to get the help that they need because we need to focus for some kids. Some kids need that focus and opportunity on the core. Because a lot of kids are failing core classes because we put them in an elective. Just for the mere fact that we need to have that 11 unspecified credits on this 28. One of the other questions that I'll probably be asked is, well, should that diploma look different? Should that 20 credit diploma look different than a 28? And I'd ask you, do our students that graduate with 29, 30, 31, 32, do their diplomas look different than their other kids? The answer is no. Because it's about the core. It's about English, math, science, social studies, and having that experience in high school. Not necessarily the specific course we tie them to, but if I had the opportunity to go into a work study program, internship program, apprentice program, that's where we're going with our kids. When I looked and heard those middle school students talk about what they wanted to do, I was struck by how interesting it is, the number that focused on college as their priority or where they were at now. And it's very interesting as kids become more educated in society and see my interest doesn't just have to lead to college. It can lead in so many different ways to get to where I want to be, that it doesn't have to be that one path. Why would we put them on having to jump through just our hoops rather than the ones that we can kind of guide them in a way that's going to be successful? And this kind of answers all the questions that I had and would be worried about. Because school funding is important. It addresses ADM. It addresses students being on a 4-year course of study plan. But it opens up avenues and doors for kids that don't exist in our current 28 credit.
Also, along with everything that you mentioned, either track that is actually chosen, it still allows for that Hathaway, correct?
Correct. The Hathaway is a completely separate piece of any requirements. And so Hathaway is broken into 4 different parts, and you can still accomplish Hathaway. In addition to that, we discussed in policy about specifying and helping guide students with that in that policy. But because Hathaway is such a separate piece, it isn't necessarily something that if we identify a policy needs to be more specific for kids. They will get that information. Now, does this put potentially a larger load on career and college counseling and high school counseling for our school counselors? Yes, it certainly does. But as principals and admin team, we've already talked about that needing to be brought back as a significant focus. Dr. Porter has referenced that at Torrington High School, wanting to support our counselors so they can get back to that. We need to have on the right course and the right time for that kid to go into that next step beyond high school.
Are you concerned at all about unintended consequences by not requiring kids to take art, band, choir, ag classes and so forth, about completely losing interest?
So one of the things there I kind of reference back is kids right now can take what courses and electives they want. I can't tell you that a student right now is taking an elective course that they don't want to be in. Because they can already work the schedule in a way that allows them to take a course that interests them. And those teachers have recruited and worked well with students. And one of my favorite words is created relationships to grow their program. Our most successful programs, especially elective ones, are about relationships. And I don't know of any elective teacher that will tell you, please put a student in my class that doesn't want to be here. I don't know that I've ever had an elective teacher tell me and request, please put kids that don't want to be here in my class. They want kids that want to be there too, because they're excited about their program too, and they want to grow it.
The current state requirements 13 credits, is that correct?
That's correct. They have a minimal requirements piece that they just put out as really necessarily guidance. There really isn't any reference to it because of Hathaway and things. And so that has to be locally developed, and that's why we have our policy. So they don't put any specifications out there to really tie us in.
I'll just say one thing about the electives. I'm just referring to my own kid, but he's gonna be a senior next year, and there isn't any new electives that are offered at Torrington High School that he's interested in, because he's already gotten the chance to take. I mean, so next year he's gonna be in advanced college level woods, so that'll be his third round of taking woods. He likes it, but it's not really. You don't have a full class of kids that have taken it 3 rounds, so you can't teach to that. You're maxed out. Well, he has to be there, so I think this is good for especially kids that are more one track or, they run out of stuff to take last year, in my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Well, I think you answered one question that I had, was about being able to graduate early. Basically, they can finish in 3 years without problem.
If that's part of their plan, they're still having to develop that 4-year plan and talk about that. One of the things that we really work on and try to emphasize is if a student, the avenues and support we have, even in that last year for apprenticeships, paid internships, all of those things to have providing those supports opens up some greater opportunities for their senior year. Now, I wouldn't say that in that plan that won't happen, because that may be the best plan for that student. But we had a couple of students at PRS, to use as an example, that said, why would I graduate right now when I can work with my current high school and get dual credit courses in college because I want to go to EWC? I can stay enrolled in PRS and have those courses paid for and get college credit for them. And so it'll be dependent upon the plan that's developed with the counselor and the parent and the student. All those this becomes much, much more important, that plan, as opposed to the conversations that I've had. Well, it's policy that really don't talk about the student. It really just points to the policy and that number, when we can really talk more about specifically designing an individual learning plan for a student through their high school career that actually fits their needs, not necessarily an arbitrary number that we've thrown out there.
So, if they did have their 20 credits done in 3 years and they wanted to be done, period, even though they didn't make a plan.
If they did not make a plan, no, that would not be.
You withhold it from them, so they would have to continue.
Okay. It need to be part of that plan and approved. It also talks about approval from the principal in regards to that.
Do you feel that there would be some kids knowing that they had to go and they didn't have a plan, but they only needed 20 credits? That even though they were taking 8 classes per semester, that they'd be like, I don't have to worry about these. Doesn't matter if I fail, I only need 20. So they
If we're having kids in courses that they want to be in, because what I do for that student, what are your interests? What internship, what apprenticeship can we find for you that motivates you to learn and have that support? Because we have some great teachers that support our kids in internship and apprentice programs that work with employers to make sure that our students have employability skills. And so they're ready for that next step, because a lot of times what will happen is a student will make that next step and not be prepared for those 21st century skills because they haven't had that guidance to work in conjunction with an instructor to find out what are their interests. Because we can say, as our TMS kids gave great examples, they think they might have a plan right now. Our freshmen coming out of freshman year say, well, I might have a plan. But that plan has to be reviewed and talked about yearly, because plans change, they dramatically shift. I know when I was going through high school, it switched 3 different times on what I wanted to do and focus on. And I had some internship opportunities that allowed me to explore that with guidance. And I think that's the key there that helps frame what we want to do for kids. It also then provides us the opportunity to support kids through guided study halls. If a student has an English course right now and a math course that is challenging, they get only one study hall to work on both of those. We already require that many courses in a day. If we have some students that are struggling, why do we handcuff them even more with, oh, we need to put you in more classes? Let's create a schedule that actually provides support for you to have that guidance when you come out of English. You're gonna get an additional 45 minutes of help to stay on top of it. And then after your math class, you're gonna get an initial 45 minutes out of math class. And you're still gonna have your 2 approved pathways. And so you're gonna have exposure to some other things, but it opens up the opportunity in regards to providing support, which we don't have a system of support for kids.
That's what I was gonna say. Do we have the counselors or whatever to provide that guidance if they want to change?
On the guidance, on the course things, yes. The structure of our schools to provide supports for kids, I think we only have to look to our graduation rate to answer that question. And the answer is no. And so this is a step in that direction. Is this the only step that we can take? And we can say, oh, we addressed this by only just having and creating this diploma. We fixed the problem. Absolutely not. We have to make sure to take a look at how those supports are, what our structure of study hall looks like. And it isn't study hall isn't just a check-in where a student says, hi, I'm here, and then I'm checking out. What kind of systems of support can we put in place for a student to make sure they're successful in those core academic areas? Because we do know that we have a number of students at the high school level that are not, well, they're not reading at grade level. And so how hard is school when you're not reading at grade level? When you've gotten there. Now we've gotten you there freshman year, and you're still reading at the 4th grade level or 3rd grade level. We haven't changed anything. We haven't provided any systems and supports. And we're expecting you without any additional help and those same credit requirements, we're going to push you through. I can tell you that the quality of just by putting that number on a page and making it 28 has not improved the quality of our education program by just putting that number. Will it improve it by putting just 20 on there? No. I agree with that too. But it provides us with some opportunities to at least explore better things for kids.
So are we putting the cart ahead of the horse a little bit by not having the supports in place for those individual students as we create these plans for them?
I don't know you have a pathway to those supports if you don't tackle this first, because if you stay with 28 and you still hold those same credit requirements, when are you going to fit those in the day for a student?
I guess also, what would those supports look like? Do we need more faculty? I mean, our counselors are already stretched pretty thick, correct?
Counselors, yes. When we have study halls that are not necessarily focused on the content that needs to be remediated, yeah, that's right now our issue. And so how do we then plan to get those in place for students? Because again, our graduation rates are showing that we're not doing what we need to do for kids. And this is that first step of at least addressing that need and for counselors to be able to have that opportunity. Because right now, if a student comes to them and says, I'm struggling, I'm not going to pass science, I'm not going to pass math, I'm struggling in English, what are my options? Well, we're going to double you up next year. We're going to just, because you're going to fail English, but not addressing it, let's get you in a structured study hall. We have the faculty to be able to provide structured study halls. It doesn't have an additional study. We don't have to have hired additional teachers to provide structured study halls.
I guess my concern was more about the counselor piece, because it sounds like this is a very in-depth, like sitting down with these kids and making this plan. That's a pretty major time commitment from faculty who are going to have to design these plans for these kids.
Already a requirement. whether we have it in this one or not, it was already specified that those plans, does this put more emphasis on and helping these students have some guidance in that? Yeah, because really, I could lay out 90% of kids what theirs was going to look like, and all we were talking about was your electives. Because those were the only choices you had, because it was completely, we had to fill this hole, a hole. It was about, it's about filling holes, is that conversation. It isn't about what are your interests, where can we fit you? Or it's about, well, we offer this course at this time, and this is the only opening you have. This is where you have to go. Sports history.
So another question, for the existing policy, can students petition for less credits or an alternative plan to receive a diploma?
Yeah, there's not a less credit allowance there. They can talk about the other courses that they can submit, but there is not an opportunity to submit for less than 28, as I understand, or my interpretation.
How would this affect, like our gonna be seniors next year? If they've already met the requirements for the 20, I mean, I know that they already have a pathway and all that, but, how would that affect them?
Still requirement of the classes, but it does open up in regards to some of our students that are on that edge of you have to pass this English course this semester. But you also have to have 4 electives. So we're gonna jam pack your schedule, even though we know from the last 3 years of experience, you've struggled passing classes. We're gonna jam pack it because that's the only way you're gonna be able to graduate on time, and we're gonna roll the dice to hope that you're going to pass this one required one, this English that's really important for you, because we can't bypass that. And because we need the 11 electives, it opens up the options for seniors also, just the same way it opens it up for freshmen. Provides kids with options as opposed to locking them in. And again, I do not have concerns that the reason we are offering electives at all of our high schools is because we have 11 electives on there. That is not why we're offering those courses. It's because kids are interested in them. When when Spanish or a foreign language was taken off Hathaway, it didn't kill foreign language. We still have foreign language. Does it look different? Possibly. But we still offer it. We still have those teachers employed within the district. And we're still having a great number of students interested because they've gone on to this next step of generating interest by creating this biliteracy seal and diploma option for them that has expanded this program. They've learned that they had to adapt statewide. That's why they created it. And they adapted to that to sell their program. And that's what will continue to have to evolve. Successful programs will continue to work harder and have students that need to be in their classes, and kids will be interested in those courses to take them.
Are we the only school in the state that's looking at this then?
No, there have been a number of different schools, high schools, that have explored different pathways. We're looking at it from the credit option specifically. The credits vary from district to district. There is no hard and fast line across the state in regards to those credits.
Could this affect a student transferring to another school then?
If they're on a plan that would include 8 classes per semester, just like when my student moved during their sophomore year, had they taken less courses, that would not have kept them on track for their graduation? Yes, but with the same type of piece there that we have on the 8 classes per semester, there'll be at least in a place where they can successfully complete it. Now, that might mean their senior year or junior year might look dramatically different than it would have looked here in Torrington or Southeast or Lingle. That doesn't mean it's unattainable.
Any other discussion?
I guess I don't, I'm not sure how this is worked policy wise, or, you know, since it is a policy, but what about if we do this for like a 1-year trial run and then look at it again?
You can actually modify policy from year to year. So that can certainly be an option. There isn't anything in statute that says you can't do that. If this is looking like something, well, we don't want to explore this, we want to have a higher year. That's how they came to 28 in the first place. 1 year they said, let's move it up to 28.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed revision to District Policy 5127 graduation requirements is presented on introduction and first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Item carries. Letter G is topics for discussion. This is a time for board members to seek input from each other on timely topics. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about?
Not to prolong the meeting any further. However, I just, because of the opportunity presented itself tonight, I think that we need to either revisit the public forum expectations so that we're clear on violations of the quorum. So it doesn't delay meetings any more than they have to be. So my suggestion is, at some point, we clarify those expectations.
We can do that. Anything else? Okay, letter H, future meetings. The next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. The annual district budget hearing will be conducted as part of the July 11th, 2023 regular board meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Kramer for the superintendent's report.
So I'll get the update on staffing. And we made some headway, as you can kind of see. We have had a number of changes that actually recently take place also again. Up there. But you also notice that our new certified staff is starting to fill in those gaps that we have. We're in talking with some other principals around the state and actually outside of the state. We're in a very good position. We have been very fortunate in our pool of candidates that we've had for positions. I'm very pleased with where we have ended up. We have been able to hire a technology director, Mike Harberts, who is going to be coming to us from the state of Wyoming. He is a Torrington resident and has been working remotely out of Cheyenne, but will be joining us in June. And our transportation supervisor, Todd Warner, who is a former bus driver, who will be joining us in that capacity. Then my other update comes from another committee that was working on some things, and I just need to take one moment to find. I'm gonna share the screen again. This has been a significant undertaking and conversation around a lot of philosophies for grading. This is the draft that kind of came out of here that I will be sharing with staff shortly. We are not ready for this to be coming to the board in policy format, but we will be as the end of the year is approaching very shortly. I need to have this in place, but I wanted to cover some things that are pretty important for you to have knowledge about and be thinking about. Number one stays with something that is very normal. All districts start to use Power Teacher, which is Power School. You're very familiar with, if you've had students in middle school or high school, familiar with Power School and accessing grades. Number two is where it starts to change a little bit and go back to where we were prior to 2019. Grades will be calculated based on two categories: district common assessments, which will be 60% of the final grade, and teacher assessments, 40% of the final grade. District common assessments are assessments that are agreed upon collegially. Students will be given multiple opportunities to demonstrate their knowledge on standards through district formatives, commons, and retakes. And I noticed that actually, I have an older version that needs to be updated. We have that on just commons and retakes. Students' grades will be determined from the best evidence of student achievement and for each standard embedded in a given unit. Check. I want to open up a new tab here to make sure I'm on the most recent. Common assessments retake process. Work from the unit must be completed before a student is given the opportunity to retake a common assessment. All common assessment retakes must be taken within 2 weeks of the original assessment. If the work is not completed or the retake is not taken within 2 weeks, the score for the assessment will stand. The student and teacher can work together to create an informal plan for remediation and reassessment. Teacher assessments. These are quizzes, labs, research papers, projects. Gives a student a chance to show what he or she knows or can do and directly links to the content standards. Teacher assessments are non-practice assignments. Non-academic factors such as effort, behavior, and attendance will be reflected in students' grade as long as it is directly tied to a state standard. There are some state standards in some courses that specifically apply to those, specifically safety items, related to if they're in a woods class, for instance. There are standards that are specifically related to what would be considered a behavior. But in regards to some of the other courses where effort and behavior and attendance can be looked upon differently, those, if it is not a state standard, would not be applied to their grade. Later incomplete work will be entered as a 0 until it is completed. Completed teacher assignments will receive full credit once completed. Teacher assessments must be turned in 2 weeks prior to the end of the semester. I also believe there's another addition to that states that, and Corey, that's in that location too. I don't know why it's not giving me that most updated one because I'm clicking on the updated one. So in addition to that, when that 0 is taken off, when we work from a 100-point scale, when we work from a 4-point scale, a 0, the distance between 0 and 4 was 4 spots. When we have a 0 and 100, and having a 100-point assignment and getting a 0 can absolutely kill you, can absolutely destroy the entire semester. So after that 2 weeks, what the lowest score, if there is no evidence, would be a 50%. And so it doesn't necessarily become a detriment to the possibility of passing that course. I can outline that a little bit better if you have further questions on that. for further explanation, but if you've worked within a grading system, you know what a 0 does on a 100-point scale versus 0 on a 4-point scale. Grading will be clearly outlined in a course syllabus. This course syllabus will be approved by building administration and given to each student enrolled in the course, as well as being posted online in PowerSchool. Each syllabus will clearly state the standards and how all standards are being assessed. GPA will be calculated to 4 decimal places. It will be converted according to the following scale: 90 to 100, and so on. A, B, C, D, and F. Your GPA on the far left. What they will see as a final grade for the semester will be a letter grade dictated by the percentage in that course. And then finally, GPA will be converted from that letter grade to the 4-point scale. Report cards will include letter grades for each course. Standards-based progress report is available online to PowerSchool. This report will include any standard score the student received. Credit is currently issued for grades 60% and higher. Credits will be issued by the semester. Things that still need to be discussed, but are not necessarily grading policy pieces, are the timeliness or when a grade must be inputted into PowerSchool, and our eligibility policy are other items that still need to be discussed. Did I miss anything on the old version in addition to that, Mr. Williams or Mr. Gilchrist? Okay. Thank you.
Superintendent Kramer, I may be misremembering, but did we not address or change the K-5 grading?
No.
Okay, so it's just the same thing.
Sorry, I hesitated because I was wondering if I had a question.
My version.
No, it's okay. I
Speaks
was
very well and more.
right there with you. There'll be some more discussion about this, but I did want to give you progress because as trustees know, there have been a number of meetings that have taken place. I would encourage any trustees, if you have anything to add to that or your experience, please feel free to share if you'd like. It has not been an easy process.
Mr. Kramer, I'd just like to say, I don't say a lot of these meetings, just sit and listen, and I really appreciate the input from the teachers, the parents, the administrators. I think it's been a group effort, so really appreciate it.
I don't know. I try to sit and listen too. I mainly try and just think how it's gonna affect, my own kids. That's about the only examples I can give. I am on the committee. I do know it's eye-opening, the amount of work just to even get this far. There's only a page and a half up there, and just to get that far is mind-boggling, the amount of hours that everybody's put in on that. It's a lot of work trying to get done in a short amount of time.
We will continue that work and getting that out there and in front of you for approval. Next item that I had was discussion of work session with WSBA for strategic plan and the superintendent. So the first part is strategic planning. That will happen in June. As I was talking to Chair Sussex, we're going to invite them because typically our June regular meeting is light on agenda items. Typically, we'll see if that is the case. And if it is, we may couple along a work session. So we know how difficult some of those June evenings are with activities and coordinating to add a work session. We may just double up on one of those evenings to start that work. Our plan is to offer surveys and a real large integration of that work starting in August. So we want to be and have that in place and ready to go. Administration has already reviewed the surveys for students and staff for them to kind of take a look at. If we had to add any other questions or anything, we've had and gathered some input already for that. The next one, also superintendent mid-year evaluation, that will be taking place in June. Maureen will be sending out those standards, which will be evaluated for the June meeting. And we'll have an executive session scheduled for that for review. Student enrollment numbers, I'll just quickly jump to that. Enrollment numbers did increase in a number of areas. Of course, green means a increase, yellow means a slight decrease. You can see even on these decreases, it's in less than or just over less than one student there, just over one student there. So we're very similar to the previous month. As you look down total, there was a slight increase of just over three students. If you look in previous years, you can see the past 2 years how significantly of a jump we took from 1554 up to 1650. My last one is referencing page 108 of the board packet, and it's just has utilized K&K Insurance as the provider of optional student accident insurance for a number of years. WEP serves as the agent, and we plan to continue with them for school year 2023-2024. The insurance is available to all parents for purchase, as the district's insurance doesn't cover student accidents. There's no cost to the district in offering this opportunity to parents. Marcia, do you have anything to add to that, or does that explain it pretty well?
This is part of the enrollment package that we get out and put it on our website and just hope that people are aware of it and take the opportunity to enroll if it's something that benefits them.
And district graduation, Sunday, May 21st, 1 o'clock, Torrington High School, 2:30 Lingo Fort Laramie, and 4 o'clock Southeast High School. And I realized I missed one also, PRS on the 17th at 5 p.m. in the EWC auditorium. That's everything I have for this evening.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.